Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, this is Shelby with Quest and welcome back to another day of Innovation Week. Our session today is ERP Expertise, Business IQ, Cloud Sense, Top Secret JD Edwards Roadmap. And our speaker today is Tom Gabriele with GSI. I've got just a few housekeeping notes to go before we get started. All attendee lines are in mute and will stay in mute throughout the presentation. So if you do have any questions, feel free to drop those in the questions drop-down box on your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll be answering those at the end of today's session. This session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to the Quest content library, and all attendees will receive an email notification when that is available. So at this time, I'll pass things over to Tom, who'll get things started for us.
Thank you, Shelby. And hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for joining the webinar. As Shelby said, my name is Tom Gabriele. I'm a senior solution consultant at GSI. And what we're here to do today, outside of reading our safe harbor agreement, just take 3 seconds. We're here to understand and talk about your JD Edwards software solution, your JD Edwards system. Is it an evolution or is it a revolution? Well, if you think about it, it's a revolution, because your ERP system, just like the Industrial Revolution that started out with steam power and moved its way to the mass production assembly line with electricity, we're now in a stage where computers, robotics, automation are taking over. And more importantly, we are now in the 4th revolution, where we're actually getting cyber physical systems. So we need to understand and we need to adapt, and we need to say to ourselves, how can I leverage my investment in all of my technology so that I can keep up with this revolution that's taking place? So if you think about it, your ERP system is ever evolving, ever changing. Your customers are ever changing. Your horizon is always in a state of flux. So what we need to do is we need to say to ourselves, we want to be in that upper right-hand corner. We want to have our digital technologies. We want to have our, third-party systems and integrations and things of that nature, all working to the best of their ability. So we need to understand, what is it that's happening at JD Edwards, what's happening with the technology, and how do we absorb that and consume that within our organizations. And what we have to say to ourselves is, if we look at ERP systems, enterprise resource planning systems, how have they changed from the traditional enterprise to now a more digital enterprise? And if we think about it, really what we see is the expectations are changing. Before, we looked at just an efficient, reliable type of system. But now what we want to do is we want to be able to have differentiated capabilities. We want to be able to quickly get those to bear. At the same time, before, ERP systems, all they needed to do was scale with our business as it grew. Well, now your ERP system needs to be more agile. It needs to be more smart, technologically smart, in order to integrate and work with all those other systems that we need to employ. And lastly, before, we just used the ERP to simply have a benchmark to say, this is what we need to do. And when we hit that benchmark, that's all we worried about. But now we need to think in a continuous improvement type of capacity. We can no longer simply say what we have is going to be good enough to get us where we have to go. And if we look at the evolution of Oracle and JD Edwards, you're going to see that they haven't waited on that concept either. We need to think about digital transformation. We need to move away from the we can't kind of philosophy, and we need to now say we can and we must use technology, use digital types of technology to keep our business thriving and moving forward. So along those lines, we talked about citizen developer several years back, being able to give your user community that ability to do their work, to integrate to other things quicker and easier so that they can get the best out of your worker. And that citizen developer philosophy, what Oracle is doing is they're saying, wait a minute, the talent pool you have is greater at the bottom. Let's start pushing down and making simpler the ability for people to personalize, the ability for people to configure and utilize software, both applications as well as the UI component and the integration component. And let's start moving away from customizations where we need that scarce, resource to go ahead and support the business. With open systems and open architecture and things of that nature, we can't afford to continue to wait to develop and create customizations and integrations. So think about your organization. Think about your enterprise. There are so many other things we're employing now. We have Internet of Things. In your shop floor and warehouse, you have wearable devices. You have mobility. You have all this data coming in. You have cognitive intelligence. You have the cloud. But if you notice, around all of those things, your ERP system is still important. And your ERP vendors know this, therefore they're making their software such that they're able to consume and support all of these things. So your ERP vendor knows the vision of the future. Your ERP vendor is making their software such to support that. It's our responsibility to make sure that we follow in line with that. Same thing holds true with integration approaches. Before, they were very rigid. Before, you had to use the product to do the integration. Now, with all open source systems and on-premise and cloud solutions, different type of softwares, the integration services that you need to use need to be able to be easier and they need to be quicker. But at the same time, they need to be a secure method for you to perform. And they also need to be able to give you real-time notification as to how the data processed. Did it process? Did it not process? Do I need to notify some other individual? So we've gone from just a pure move data from A to B to a move the data but do many other things with it. So your ERP systems have moved from that traditional lower left-hand corner to now where we were mobile with the beginning of Orchestrator and IoT and mobility. We are now in a supervised ERP system where we have layered in robotic processes. We've layered in some natural language. We've layered in some decision-making capabilities. But again, Oracle is not stopping. Oracle is on their way to an intelligent ERP. They're on their way where there'll be actual machine learning. There's going to be both assisted as well as automated decision-making and adaptive intelligence. They're on the cusp of delivering that. We need to understand and make sure we can follow suit. Your JD Edwards system is no longer a system of record. It's no longer a place where you simply put in a transaction, then run a report and look at that transaction. your JD Edwards system has now evolved into a market share expansion machine. It has grown into a system that allows you and your organization to grab and control more of your marketplace. But you're only going to be able to do that if you consume the technology and tools that they're giving you. And that's what we're here to talk about as well. What's that roadmap and how do we consume? So you, as an organization, are at a point where you have to make a decision. Am I going to turn around and keep business as usual? Or am I going to embrace what I need to embrace? And I'm going to go and grow my business, grab additional market share, become the leader in my industry. So let's ask ourselves a question. 9.2 is the latest EnterpriseOne release. Some of us in the audience may be sitting there and saying, well, I'm on release 9.1. Some may be saying, hey, I'm on release 9.0. Hopefully, very few of you are going to say that I'm on 8.12 or 8.11. Because if you look at when that software became available, even if you say you're on 9.1, you are on an 8-year-old software product. If you are on 8.12, you're on a 14-year-old software product. Now, all of you know technology is changing. Just simply look at your phone and simply look at other things that are out there. To be on an 8-year-old software is not supportive of the way you need to do business today. Well, you say, let's talk about support. You know, Oracle offers 3 levels of support. Naturally, you want to be on the premier support side of the fence. That's where you get bug fixes, you get maintenance, you get updates, you get statutory, regulatory things at the end of every year. And traditionally, that's for 5 years. Then you could say, well, wait, I want to pay additional support money to extend that for another 3 years. So again, if you're on 9.1, your premier support was over. You need to pay for extended support to get that same kind of level of care and feeding. But then after that, what happens? You go on to what's referred to as sustaining support. So you'll still get supported by Oracle as long as you pay those fees. So why do I have to? I can still stay on sustaining support forever. Well, think about it. You don't get any more fixes. You don't get any more updates. You don't get any security fixes or patch updates. You don't get your statutory, legal, and tax dates at the end of every year. More importantly, you don't get certification with any other new third-party products or their versions. So sustaining support is not the answer. You're just falling further and further behind. So when we look at the systems that we use and the ERP that we use, we need to understand that we always need to have the latest and greatest. So Enterprise 9.2, EnterpriseOne 9.2, it came out 2018. Over the course of time, Oracle has alluded to the fact that we are extending premier support. And several years back, they said, hey, it was December of 2030. But guess what? We've just heard that now they've extended it even further. So now your Enterprise 9.2, EnterpriseOne 9.2 is supported with premier support through 2031. So ask yourselves a question. What release am I on? I'm paying support dollars. What am I getting? It makes the most sense for us to move to the platform that Oracle is going to support through 2031. And if you look at World, and I know, sometimes World doesn't get the kind of attention that EnterpriseOne gets, the philosophy is still the same. You have older releases of World. World A 9.4 is going to be supported Premier support-wise through whenever. But again, you want to upgrade, because what's that upgrade doing for you? If you remember that prior chart about the migration of ERP systems and where they're going, and the citizen developer slide, your ERP system now is removing the need of customization, minimizing the need of others to do configuration. What it's doing is it's simply empowering your end user, giving them the ability to do what they need to do in the quickest amount of time and the lowest cost. So again, it's giving you a better return on your money and increasing your cost of ownership in the product. We want to move away from the right-hand side of this graph to the left. We want to avoid those large transformational upgrades by continuously consuming those things that we can get from Oracle and JD Edwards, so that now every time we do an upgrade, it's more of a technical upgrade that is the shortest amount of time and the least amount of dollars. So that's the benefit of staying current. That's the benefit of being on 9.2. That's where Oracle wants you to go. So when we think about that, and we say to ourselves, okay, so what are they doing in order to get us there? Well, when we look at 9.2, one of the other things Oracle wants us to think about is utilizing our software in a broader and deeper capacity. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is they no longer want us to just look at a module and say, well, geez, that module says attribute management. And they don't want us to look at it to be just one simple thing. They want us to understand that it can be used across the board. Think outside the box and start leveraging your applications to do more than what the simple word may seem to be. I'm throwing this slide up here because I just want to show you the importance of staying current. We talked about integrations earlier. We talked about how integrations are important because there's so many other products out there, so many other, SaaS products that people want to employ. But how do you move all of that information and keep talking back and forth between all these different systems? Well, if we just simply look at the last 3 years, and we look at the tools release levels and what they've done, if we look at 2017 when Orchestrator started, it was on tools release 9.2.2.1, and Orchestrator Studio was version 6.0.2. Well, the next year, in 2018, Oracle continued to enhance the Orchestrator, and notice it came out with 2 tools releases that in effect updated Orchestrator to 2 different releases, release 6.1 and 7.0. But again, as I said before, Oracle is understanding that revolution, getting to that 5th revolution. In 2019, last year, 3 tools releases came out and in effect caused Orchestrator to go from release 7.1 up to 7.3. But they're not done. Tools release 9.2.4 forward has built Orchestrator into such a robust tool now that it behooves us to get to the latest tools releases so that we can use that integration tool in a more efficient manner instead of needing third-party product and people to support that. You need to remember, Oracle isn't just doing these things on their own. While some of the enhancements are coming internally, the majority of them are driven by you. By going to events like the Collaborate and In Focus, by entering SARs and requests and things of that nature, their roadmap is 3 to 5 years. They still have things that are in the pipeline that they're developing. They're not developing things today for tomorrow. The things we get tomorrow have been in the pipeline for years. So they're continually looking to move forward. The thing I can tell you to do is they are now on tools 9243, and they've come out with additional application enhancements. If none of you are going to learnjde.com, you need to bookmark that in your browser, because learnjde.com, not only will you be able to see what the latest and greatest is, you'll also be able to navigate to what is referred to as a report comparison tool. And what that does is it says, hey, if I'm on tools release 9.1 whatever, and I want to see all the changes from that tools release to the current tools release, you can run and generate a report that will show you all of the changes. The same holds true on the application side. That tool and this site are great things for you to use to understand what's out there, so that you can now strategically plan on how you would take them and consume them in your organization. So for the next couple of minutes, what I want to show you is I want to show you the tools releases and application enhancements that were just announced about a month or so ago. Okay, April 19th. Okay. So when we look for the tools release, they've made changes again to Orchestrator. You now get a debugger for your Orchestrator that is an online debugger that's not on the AIS server anymore, and it will literally show you the points of failure within each step. Whereas before it just said, hey, there's an error. Now you'll actually see where that error is. They've included in Orchestrator the means to call a business function. And you also now can embed orchestrations and notifications without connectors. The user experience side, the UX1 side, they've made changes in navigation and page composers. Form extensibility continues to be improved, and they changed the direction to mobile applications. And when we talk about Orchestrator, another thing they've done is now you can set up in AIS your REST calls to be fire and forget instead of just individual setup. So again, they continue to make these enhancements. Now, for those of you that are on 9.1, for those of you that are on 9.0, you say, hey, can I just upgrade to tools 9243 and get all the benefits of this Orchestrator thing? The answer is no, not really. But we can talk to you. You can work with us to understand that whole navigational process. If we think, and if you look at the right-hand side of that screen was a little plus sign. When you go to learnjde.com, if you click on that, you'll get a narrative of what it does, right? So you can see for debugger what it's actually doing. You can see for the business function, what is it actually doing? So again, a quick and easy tool that we have available to us to understand the things that are out there for us to consume, so we don't have to wait. The mobile application strategy, low code, no code kind of options, talks about all of that. Now, what else is important? What else is important is your platform certifications. For Oracle, every time they keep moving forward with JD Edwards, naturally databases change, naturally other software products change. So Oracle comes up with certifications as to what other types of software and database platforms you can run on with the latest release. And they certify those, saying that, yeah, if you're on this, you know that the latest and greatest was going to work. So now you might be on SQL Server 2016 and want to get to the latest tools release. As long as they're still certified for SQL 2016, you can do that. If not, you may have to upgrade your underlying software as well. So again, it's important to always stay up to date and knowledgeable as to what you need to do. Now, just like tools, you have application enhancements. And like before, what JD Edwards is trying to do here is they're trying to increase that user productivity. They're trying to make you understand that your business processes, they're extending those certain things like multiple voucher entry, multiple vendor voucher entry. They deliver enhancements not only to support your existing, but new business processes within these modules. And they look to focus on simplifying the business process while increasing the user experience. So that's what they're trying to do. Things like watch lists, notifications, other things. So you can see the types of module specific enhancements that were made. On the manufacturing side, they created a work order ledger. The last release, the last upgrade, allowed you to use status codes within a work order, just like sales order entry. Now they've created a ledger over that. So we can see, as we walk through these things, the various modules, and at a high level, what they've done. So go to that learnjde.com site. You can either A, click on these plus signs and get lists of all of them, or you can run that report to actually see what they are. But if you utilize these certain modules, it may make sense for you to do that, okay? So if I look at a few of these, naturally, legislative, regulatory, localization concerns, you need to be on Premier support to get payroll year end, right? So work order ledger for manufacturing, again, it basically says that you had the activity rules. Now we've created a ledger for you to see what was going on. Here is a slide, and I know it's very busy, and I know there's a lot of information on that, and I apologize. But through the recording, when you look at it again, these are specific documents. Unfortunately, upgrading is not quote unquote easy. There's a lot of things you need to do in the proper order for you to upgrade the software. And there's documents that point out known issues. So understand the fact that if you look, learnjde.com, the Oracle website and Oracle documentation, those are the places to go to get this information. Now, that was the latest 9243. The tools released prior to that, you can still see that things have been updated. Personalization and form extensibility, the scheduler interface for Orchestrator. If you look at the bottom of the screen, your database, 32 and 64-bit on Linux and Windows, that is going to become important to you as well. Because what we're going to see is that Oracle is moving toward a 64-bit environment to future-proof your investment. Now, rumor has it that by 2021, that's going to become a requirement that you move to 64-bit. And it makes sense to do that in today's day and age with security needs. So just understand that. How does that affect your organization? What happens about your third-party products and systems? Can they handle 64-bit? You need to start thinking about that today, because your runway has to be more than 1 month, 2 months. You need to start planning today to move to that type of environment. And again, some application changes from the prior releases. Again, all of these play upon themselves release to release. So visit learnjd.com. Through learnjd.com, there'll be the link for the report comparison tool, but you'll need to sign on to your Oracle site and have an Oracle ID and sign in. Or go to the Oracle site to look at the blogs or to look up documents and things like that to keep yourself current on what's going on. Now, the last thing I want to mention about all of this is this. A lot of these changes now that come through the tool set, especially when they affect the UX1 user interface model, Oracle has changed several years ago to delivering all objects locked down. And what I mean by that is, just because you take the tools release doesn't mean your users have access to the capability. You now also have to understand what should your philosophy be for layering in the latest and greatest, letting your users test it, and then promoting it up into production. Your change management lifecycle needs to change so that your users can get their feet wet on all the new stuff, and then you can move it forward accordingly. But the point here is, just because Tom or just because someone says this is available and you go back and don't see it, it could be because you do not have authority. So ask yourself, is this my last big upgrade? Well, technically no, because Oracle, even though they said that 9.2 is supposed to be the last dot release, at least through 2031 now, right? If you're not on 9.2, well, guess what? It may be. If you're on 8.12, you're going to have a big upgrade, right? But if you're on 9.2 until 2031 at least, you don't have to worry about that. Now, we have clients at GSI that are on 9.2, been on 9.2 since the beginning, and they're very diligent in staying current with the upgrades of both their software and their hardware. And what they found is that they go from many, many weeks of effort to literally just over a week or so to apply all of these updates, the tools, the apps, to do the testing and get them in production. That's a lot better than 4 months, 6 months disrupting the business. It allows your business to continue to grow as you're layering in all these changes. I talked about the 64-bit. The rumor is maybe 2021, they're going to make it mandatory. Start thinking about what you need to do today. And again, get on a cadence. Get on a cadence where you know Oracle's coming out every quarter with new stuff. Well, maybe then every 6 months you evaluate and take what you need to take. The other thing you need to understand is this. If you say to yourself, we're code current, so no worries, that's not true, because code current is not the philosophy of continuous innovation in your organization. Can you want, as an organization, to be in a continuous innovation mode? And what that means is you want to take continuous delivery along with the continuous adoption of that. Continuous delivery is simply saying, hey, Oracle is coming out with some new feature and functionality. They're coming out with it every 4 months or so. And that new functionality can either be singular or it could be a cumulative type of update, if you will. But the continuous adoption of that is looking at it, deploying it in your organization, adopting that new functionality and feature and the capability on a regular basis as well. Now, they may not align to when Oracle delivers them, but you are at least delivering, getting it, and adopting it. So you want to make sure that you're in a continuous innovation philosophy. That's Oracle's mentality, that you are doing that. Oracle's mentality of continuous delivery also to them is the fact that you are adopting it. So make sure that your continuous innovation with continuous engagement. Go back to the Learn JDE site, go back to the Oracle site, evaluate what's out there, identify how it's going to fit into your organization, adopt it and implement it into your organization. And if you are regimented in that mindset, you're going to increase the value of your JD Edwards system. You're going to turn it into that market share expansion machine. You're going to be able to adapt to all the changes in your marketplace. You're going to succeed more quickly, and you're going to get a very short return on your investment. So, automate DevOps. What do I mean by that? Use the technology tools out there. Use Orchestrator. Automate common tasks. Use bots. Lower your administrative cost. Have the system become proactive and self-correcting. Use Orchestrator to push data, and if it fails, to send a notification. And when it gets that back, update the data. Reduce your need for that specialized skill set, i.e. that citizen development chart that I showed you, where your user base is where you really want to be. Now, even though you do that, you're still going to have challenges. You're going to have technical challenges because your IT group is going to have to say, hey, can we consume this? Do the minimum technical requirements, are they met? Can I run SQL 2020 on this other third party? What other deliverables or dependencies are there, right? So you need to use tools that evaluate the change, assess the impact. You need to have tools that can automate the testing and capability. And you need to work with the business owners to understand, what do you really need to consume? On the flip side, you have people and process changes as well. Users are going to say, well, really, what am I going to get? Why? Why do I need it? You're going to have to educate people that the times, they are changing. It's not the same old that, my mom and dad had. It's a whole new world now. IT and the business, they have to form a partnership. IT can no longer just be that maintenance department, that maintenance group. And your change management philosophy needs to change. You need to shore up and say, if I'm going to consume things on a quarterly basis, I need to know, how often do I test? Who has to test? Things of that nature. And that's where some other tools can help you out. Conform to the delivery. I've told you that Oracle is delivering. They're not stopping. They're not going to say, Tom wants me to wait 6 months. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. We need to understand and become an agile culture. We need to make sure that our tools and processes are the most mature that they can be. So, again, if we look at the JDE roadmap, if we look at when product was released, right? 9.1 in 2012, right? All these other releases. We have to understand the support and when that ends. And what I said to you is, a couple of years ago, Lyle said 2030. They just came back and said, no, it's 2031. And he'll probably keep extending it a year upon year. But just because 9.2 came out back in 2015 and it's already been 5 years, it doesn't mean in 2031 it's going to get stale. No, the underlying code is still there and they've built upon that. So it's not like 9.2 is going to get stale. We have to remove ourselves and get with the fourth revolution so that we can prepare for the fifth revolution. We have to know that not only citizen developer, but automation and machines need to help us do our work. And they'll help us do our work quicker, more reliably. So that's where we need to move to. Your ERP solution is not meant just for one industry, one type of business, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. Your ERP solution is a unique business process for every industry and organization. It gives you that efficiency. It's allowing you a more seamless integration tool. But you have to adopt those changes. You have to be able to respond to that digital disruption and accept that. So remember, the strength of any digital technology, regardless if it's social, mobile, cloud, whatever, the strength isn't in the technology. The strength is how you as a company integrate them and transform your business. That's where the true strength of a technology lies. Not simply saying, oh, I have it and it's there and it's off to the side. How are you going to leverage that and use that? All right, that's great. I have all this stuff, Tom, but what am I supposed to do with that? How am I supposed to operate? GSI, we can help you. We can help you get over the hump of saying, what is there out there to consume? How should I consume it? What should I do in my business? Right? How do I get code current? How do I make sure my hardware and other software is compliant? I told you those other documents that are out there, upgrading is not a simple task. But we can help you understand the constraints and say these are the steps you need to take. We've done upgrades from 8.12 to 9.2. We've done upgrades from 9.1 to 9.2. We've seen a lot, right? So, as I said before, 9.0 to 9.2, 9.1 to 9.2, that could be simple. But if you're going from XE or 8.11 to 9.2, maybe it might take a little more effort. But the point is, you want to spend the time now because it's only going to get worse the longer you wait. Utilize inherent tools to help you. Within the latest release of JD Edwards, there's a report called the Customizer Analysis Report. It literally looks at all your views and it says, what have you customized that can now be changed by simply using a new UI, right? What business view did I create that now I can turn and use a form extension to alleviate that? And why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you turn around and remove that customization that needs to be supported, that needs to be retrofitted? Why wouldn't you simply now use the internal tools, that you're given through JD Edwards to do that? So that's from a UI perspective. But now what about just plain old custom applications? Well, guess what? At GSI, we've created a product called Genome that can help you detect and analyze and automate those customizations for you, utilizing Orchestrator. It's retrofitting and using machine learning to take your customization and now utilize Orchestrator to do that. So ask yourself a question. Are we really getting the true value that we need from our JD Edwards investment with all the tools and technology that's out there? Is that JD Edwards market expansion machine all that my business needs it to be? And I'm gonna guarantee, I'm gonna step out on a limb, and I'm gonna tell you that 99.9% of you, that answer is no. So with all those things that are out there, not only the tools, but the applications, cloud integrations, Orchestrator, if you want value in your JD Edwards investment, if you want your JD Edwards investment to become that market expansion machine, reach out to us today. We will evaluate your organization. We will provide you a business value assessment to let you know where you can leverage and get the biggest bang for your buck. Now, most people today, when they see that word free, they jump all over it. So understand that we have that expertise, understand that we have the technology and the tools to help you get to where you need to be. So with that, Shelby, I'm going to throw it back over to you for any questions or concerns.
All right, great. Thank you, Tom. And we have had a couple of questions come in. So someone asked, is 9.2 the last release for JDE?
The answer to that is, it is the last dot release as of today. We never say never, right? But there are no plans on the distant horizon to go to a 9.3 release. 9.2, we anticipate that being the release for many years to come.
All right, and another question is, what are the leading practices for keeping training and documentation artifacts current?
That has to be, number one, the tools you use to do that and the organizational area that you use to do it. You have to define, is each business line responsible for their own? Is there a separate department that's responsible for their own? So we identify that. And then what I say is, as each release is consumed, and we talked about Oracle giving these things out every quarter, right? Maybe you consume them every 6 months. And I alluded to the fact that we let our users go in and test and play, and when we decide what we want to move forward, we move forward. As part of that whole process, you need to engage your training and documentation group to say that once we decide what we're moving forward, we're updating our collateral in kind. And then, if you have multiple divisions and one is on a lesser release than you, then naturally you might have to, have some type of versioning or whatever. But traditionally, what we tell people to do is, as you're consuming and testing and getting ready to move forward, you are updating your documentation at the same time.
Great. And the next question is upgrading the tools release in 9.2 enough to get the latest enhancements?
Again, from a tools perspective, yes, you upgrade to 9.243, you're going to get the latest enhancements. But again, you may have access to the latest enhancements for Orchestrator, but yet if you have an AIS server that's not on the same release level, right, then the answer is no, you're not going to be able to use those enhancements. So that's the disconnect I talked about, where you need to understand that you have to keep your hardware and software levels all in sync to take advantage. On the flip side, of the user side, yes, you might get some enhancements for the users, but as I said, if you didn't know what enhancements were out there, like form extensions, if you took a tools release and didn't know form extensions were part of it, your users would never know or see it because it's delivered locked down. You have to understand that, oh, form extensions are in this. What are they doing? Grant access to the user so they can use them. So again, a shift in how your change management processes have to work to be part of this continuous innovation model.
All right, and the last question that we had is Orchestrator standard in 9.2, or is it a module that you have to select and pay?
Orchestrator is free with the tool set. You have access to the orchestrator. Now, naturally, it's sort of like one view reporting, and it's like, UX1 roles. You have the capability through the tool set to use orchestrator, but there are no predefined or delivered orchestrations / notifications. You would need to develop those on your own. And again, at GSI, we have a group that's their whole life. Their whole life is helping organizations, training organizations, managing and supporting organizations, the orchestrations that they use. So, this business value assessment I alluded to, we can very easily come in, see that you need 3, 4, 5 orchestrations. We can actually support those for you going forward. We can actually train your people how to do it. But to your direct question, Orchestrator is delivered with JD Edwards. You have the ability to use it, for X number of years back, 4 or 5 years ago. It's now something you don't have to pay for.
Great. And that was all the questions that we had come in. So thank you, Tom, for speaking with us today and answering everyone's questions. And thank you to everyone who logged on and participated with us today. All right, and we've got some sessions.
Thanks very much.
Yep, and we've got some sessions later this afternoon and throughout the week, so we hope to see you all there. Thanks.
Thank you, Shelby.